So today we have something really important to do. So we're only going to go over 2 questions. Okay, so first of all, I want you to go ahead and copy this question. Ready? Go. So again, now you are done copying the question. So let's go ahead and work on solving it. Okay? So let's make sure that we highlight. Keisha had only pennies and dimes in her change purse. Now when she counted out her change, she had 90 cents. So we have to remember to highlight all the important information. If she had 5 times as many pennies as dimes, how many pennies did she have? And I put a star over here and I said requires answer because on your final, it doesn't want you to just write the equation. They actually want you to find the answer. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to come up with an equation. Okay, so pennies are obviously 1 cent, right? And dimes, just so you know, is 10 cents. Okay, so she has pennies. Let's say that the pennies are P, and let's say that the dimes are D. And so what we're gonna do is when we added the pennies, and that's 1 penny, and then when we added the dimes is how many cents? That's 10 cents. So 10 times however many dimes, right? And then we had 90 cents. So I'm going to put 90 cents. If this was $2 instead of 90 cents, what would you put? You would put 200, okay? Because we're right. Okay, so then all the things that I've been telling you are now gone. But anyhow, there you go. And so then the next thing that you have to look at is there are 5 times as many pennies as dimes, okay? So we have more pennies. So basically for each dime, there's going to be 5 pennies. So P is equal to 5D. So what we're gonna do is instead of P, we're gonna just plug in the 5D. Okay, so let's do this. Instead of P, I'm going to put 5D. So that would be 5D plus 10D, and that equals 9D. So 5D plus 10D is 15D, and that equals 9D. Now for us to find out how many dimes we have, what do we have to do to both sides? We gotta divide by 15. So 15D equals 9D, and then we're going to divide both sides by 15. That gives me how many dimes? Yes, that gives me 6 dimes. Okay, so once we have the 6 dimes, what we're gonna do now is we have to figure out how many pennies she has, okay? So since D is 6, what do we have to do? We simply have to plug in the 6 into the D right here, okay? So 6 times 5 is 30. So how many pennies do we have? 30. And that would be your answer. And because this is a multiple choice test, you really don't have to write down sentences or write down steps like I always require you to. All you have to do is select the correct answer, which is 30. And now what I want you to do is go ahead and spend time working on 19B. If you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll go ahead and help you, okay? Ready? Begin. Okay, I want you to go ahead and make sure you copy everything, okay? Because this is how it looks like on the test, okay? This is question number 20. Ready? Go. Okay, so this is the last question for today, except for, of course, the practice question that you have to do, which is down here, okay? But let's take a look. It says a system of linear inequalities is shown below, right? And so these are the 2 equations that we have to look at. Which of the following ordered pairs is a solution? What does a solution mean, guys? It means an answer. Root or an answer. Okay, let me erase the word root. It means the answer. So what is the answer? And you have 4 choices, and I told you this is a multiple choice test, right? And so I want everybody to know that when we have an ordered pair, we always have the x first and then the y comes later on, okay? So if you look at option A, 2, 0, what that means is x is 2 and y is 0, okay? So then what we have to do is, in order for us to figure out what the answer is, when we plug in the numbers 2 and 0 into x and y, it has to satisfy this equation and it also has to satisfy that equation. Okay, so let's plug it in. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and copy the equation, the first one. I'm gonna number it, 1 and 2. So I'm going to write the first equation, which is y is equal to or greater than negative 3x plus 6. And what I'm going to do next is, you see option A, x is what? 2. And what is y? 0. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in 2. And instead of y, I'm going to plug in 0. Okay? And so now let's go ahead and rewrite the equation with the numbers on top, right? So y is 0. So 0 is equal to or greater than negative 3 times 2. This is not negative 32, you know that, right? So negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 6. So what's negative 6 plus 6? Well, that happens to be a 0. So let me ask you something. Is 0 equal to or greater than 0? Yes, it is. Because don't forget, we have the equal sign right here. So yeah, 0 is not greater than 0, but it says equal to or greater than. Is 0 equal to 0? Yes. So option A is going to be the answer for what? Equation number 1. But just because it's the answer for equation number 1 doesn't mean that's the answer. Okay? We also have to plug it in to the second equation. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to copy down my second equation. Y is less than 2x minus 2. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Instead of x, I'm going to plug in 2. And then instead of y, I'm going to plug in 0. Okay? So now let's rewrite the equation and see if this is working. But this time, instead of the letters, I'm going to put in the numbers. So 0 is less than 2 times 2 is 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. Oh, okay. So is 0 less than 2, guys? Okay, so there you go. Is 0 less than 2? Of course it is, right? Okay, so why did I put an x over here? I don't know why. So we're going to go ahead and put a 2 over here. Okay, and 0 is definitely less than 2, right? And so that's correct. And so our answer is obviously A, but it says select all that apply. So that means we have more than one correct answer. So I want you to go ahead and tell me which other one is the correct answer. And then let me go ahead and give you the next question right now, okay? So this is the next question that you have to copy and solve and tell me what the correct answer is, okay? Ready? Go.